Hey, deserving listeners, time to continue watching the trial. Let's watch.
She was adamant. No, it's not time. It's not time. So, in explaining how these withdrawals start to take over your body, when I was begging at that point for the meds, I found that I had sort of rolled off the couch and I was sitting on the floor, crying, tears streaming down my face, begging another human being to please give me the meds that will take this away.
All right, so I haven't been reacting much because there wasn't much to say other than just to listen to Johnny Depp, but he's talking about how he was in the throes of a pretty heavy opiate addiction on pills, the roxycodone, and he is talking about trying to kick the habit, trying to abstain, and typically, almost always, you have to go through a detox period in which you prepare for the onset of withdrawal symptoms, which are really quite intense. You need medical care during that time. You can, like I said in a previous video, you can have serious complications from the withdrawal. And while I'm on the topic, I mean, I'm not a medical provider, but I know enough about it to say that whenever you change medications, you should always consult with your physician, because for some medications, there can be really serious effects to coming off the substance. You know, people will just say, well, I don't think I need it anymore, and they just stop taking it. And, some pretty serious things can happen, even fatalities. So he is saying that he wanted to go to his private island to detox because he didn't want to be around paparazzi or anything. He was planning on going down there, and he didn't want Amber to come because he knew that it was going to be a very difficult time for him. It wasn't going to be a vacation. It was going to be kind of gnarly down there. And so he was saying to Amber, you shouldn't come. But Amber Heard insisted. He basically was saying that he didn't have any choice but to let her come. And so she did. And then they're on the island, and he's detoxing, and he is going through various different waves of withdrawal symptoms, and he is asking for the medication that helps him get through the withdrawal symptoms. I'm not really quite sure what meds he's talking about. Often what we are talking about, I'm not a super expert on it. There was a time when I knew all this stuff because I actually I used to treat people with this. I didn't prescribe these medical assistance to withdrawal symptoms. But, I remember in my doctorate learning about antagonists and other kinds of things. And I'm forgetting all that stuff. It's not part of my regular practice these days, but there are medications you could take that can replace the activity of the opiate in the nervous system, but won't get you high and will give you a chance to, it's like an in-between drug. When you're taking the opiate, you're seeking to be sober from that completely without the drug. There's a set of in-between drugs. I'll just say that's probably what I should have said in the beginning. And I think that's probably what he's talking about. Now, he's saying that normally he would have had someone else there that would have helped him with this process. And I think he's implying that because Amber Heard is there and because Amber Heard is controlling or mean or something, when he asked for the drug, he wasn't getting it from Amber because Amber was refusing to give it to him. Whereas if it was his original choice to come with him to the island, they would have given him the medication. Okay. Now, I don't know, but it could be, if we look on the positive side for Amber Heard, it's possible that she was instructed to only give him this in-between medication or this assistance medication in, a certain regimen, and not to take it too much at one time. There could have been, there could have been complications, or it could just delay the inevitable, because as you detox, there's likely going to be some withdrawal symptoms, and if you take that medication every time you feel even slight discomfort, then it's just prolonging the inevitable that you have to go through. So, and again, I don't know if any of this is true, but I can imagine that being true. And Amber Heard said to him, he recalls that she said, it's not time yet. So that implies to me that she was instructed by someone else to follow a certain time schedule for Johnny Depp's benefit. And I'm guessing that Amber Heard, being his wife, wanted him to be sober from that, and was kind of caught in a bind there. And that, but for Johnny Depp, according to him, and we could imagine, right, that in the moment, one of two things could be happening. One is he's like, you don't understand, like a huge wave is happening right now. And I don't care if this delays it a little bit. I need the med now. You don't understand how horrible this feels, because, you know, he went into detail about how it feels. And yeah, it sounds like classic opiate withdrawal symptoms, which is just truly awful, which is a big reason why people get addicted, and a big reason why y'all should be extremely careful whenever you take these meds. And as soon as you feel that urge or that itch to take them past the prescription, or when you don't really need it, it should be a huge red flag of, oh, this is the beginning, you know, because if you catch it in the beginning, it's much easier to kick the habit than it is once you're at this point. So that's one option, is like, if the physician were there, they would recognize, oh, well, he's having a particular episode right now, so let's go ahead and administer this medication prior to the time schedule, because we don't want him to suffer that much. Plus, there can be complications from withdrawal symptoms. So that's one option. The other option is that he was just having a freak out that you have when you go through withdrawal symptoms. Like to detox from opiates, it's sort of no pain, no gain. You can't get through it typically without a fair amount of discomfort. And that's why it's so hard to kick. Even when you have all the resources, for a lot of people, it's so overwhelming. Because, you know, there's the physical pain, there's the nausea, but it's also like this mental experience of horribleness. I don't know how to, I've never been through it myself, but I've been with people and I've heard them describe it. That could be like even 90%, because if it was just physical, then I think they would be able to cope with it, but it also like just consumes your entire soul and spirit. And so I wonder if there's a logical explanation or understandable explanation as to why Amber Heard would have resisted giving him the medication. But if we don't give Amber Heard the benefit of the doubt, then is this another example of her punishing him and controlling him? I would say that given the profile we've heard thus far, this doesn't fit. That conceptualization of cruelty for cruelty's sake doesn't really fit with what we've seen so far. But then getting back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of her insisting that she come with him to the island, if she didn't have borderline, then she might actually be able to tolerate that, right? She might, even though she's like, well, I want to be there for you. And then Johnny Depp would say, no, I don't want you there, really, because it's going to be awful. And, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't want to have to worry about you. I don't want you to see me go through that. Look, I'll just go. I'll come back sober, and please just let me do this on my own. Then someone without borderline I'm imagining, would say, well, that makes me sad, but totally, if this will be better for you, then please go. But if you have borderline, then everything else is eclipsed by your desperation not to be abandoned. And to have him go to the island would feel emotionally like an abandonment, and so you will insist on coming. I don't know if that's the reason, though.
We went back to Los Angeles, and then I asked Miss Heard if she would please allow me 5 days, 7 days, whatever it took, to finish with the rest of this horrific detox and the pain.
Did Miss Heard give you that time?
She did, reluctantly, yes. I was,
Okay, so he's saying that because of that event and how hard it was, he decided to leave the island, come back to Los Angeles, I believe, and he asked her, okay, I don't want you there, so please give me 7 days away from you. I will get clean, and please let me do that. And she reluctantly allowed him.
I was immediately accused of throwing her out. I was accused of abandoning her.
Right. I mean, just imagine that. Regardless of whether or not she suffers from a personality disorder or not, you are at, and he described this earlier, the lowest point of your entire life. You are in a serious medical and psychological situation, and you're just asking your partner, can you please just leave me alone for 7 days so I can get clean? You know, it's not like he's going on a bachelor party and partying all the time and asking her to stay home. He's saying, I'm going through a massive medical treatment regimen, and I just don't want you there. Is that okay? And then to have them, instead of your partner saying, totally get it, whatever you need, I'm here for you. If you want me there, I'll be there. If you don't want me there, I won't be. That's I think what normal people would do. But according to Johnny Depp, who knows if it's true, he's saying that she became up in arms and accused him of abandoning her and of being a bad person or a bad partner or something. And of course, if you have severe borderline, then that's how it's going to feel like, even though rationally there's nothing about that even closely resembles abandonment, right? And of course, there's some narcissism there of, well, but I don't want to feel abandoned. So that is the only thing that matters. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about your detox. I don't care about how you feel as you go through the worst part of your life. It's all about me. And people will say people with borderline have narcissism, but it's not the same thing as narcissistic personality disorder. It is because the individual is just so in pain that they can't think of anything else. It's unfortunate that Johnny Depp had to deal with that as a complication during his recovery.
I was accused of not appreciating all that she had done to get me to this point where I was, which was kind of an interesting argument for me.
Yeah. Now, there's a possibility, because as a couple therapist, I am frequently hearing different sides of the story and have learned over time that when I'm hearing one person's side of the story, particularly as they're in a situation like this where they're in court or going through divorce, that I always have to fill in possible gaps of information to derive hypotheses as to why all that would happen. So I've been doing that for Amber thus far. I have no data to back that up, but I'm just throwing that out there as at least the way that I think. And another possibility is that Amber Heard had observed that the way that Johnny Depp's medical team and psychological team reacted to Johnny Depp was not necessarily always in Johnny Depp's best interest. I don't know. There's no reason to believe that. But I'm just throwing this out there as a possibility that Amber Heard, at least from her perspective, might have seen her, Johnny Depp's medical team pulling punches, if you will, going easy on him because he has so much money and it's so lucrative to work with him that they're not pushing him enough to actually go through the recovery process. And Amber Heard felt like she had to be there to make sure that everyone actually kept on him, because we really want him to be sober and we don't want you worried about him being upset at you, because we've got to push him because we got to get through this. I don't know, but I could see that happening. I have no data to suggest it happened here, though.
It was very necessary. So she did eventually leave for about five days or so, and I sat in after a few days I sat in a metal chair with one song on a loop, that I could focus on the lyrics and the power of the song to help me get through it. And even once the deep.
Well, now I'm curious what song that was. Let me Google it. Maybe someone has disclosed it. Well, the internet is of no help there.
the effects, started to go away. That is the pain. I was still in this, something strange that happens. You feel electricity in your body. You feel this electric, very foreign, and you're just sitting there like going through it.
Okay, so you just rattled off a bunch of meds. I believe the meds might have been prescribed to help him get through the detox process, medications to suppress the possibility of seizure. He also mentioned lithium, which is typically prescribed for bipolar, not always.
One of his lawyers sit down with Ms. Heard and give her a basic rundown of what a postnuptial agreement meant, and I was told that they showed
Objection, hearsay.
What did Miss Heard tell you she was upset about when she arrived in Australia?
Ms. Heard told me that the attorney that she met with was rude and dismissive. All she was being shown was an example of a postnuptial agreement. Ms. Heard then stated to me that she was very upset. She stated to me that what she had said was, she said to the lawyer, the woman, that this Johnny can't, he must not, he doesn't know about this. He's never seen, he doesn't know that this is what this is. No way he would agree to this.
Okay, lots to say. They have been talking for a long time about various different things that I haven't really been reacting to, but they asked Johnny Depp if he wanted to get a prenuptial agreement, and Johnny Depp said, yeah, I brought it up a number of times, but every time Amber Heard would either avoid the topic or she would get combative with him. And given the profile that the Johnny Depp team is, proposing for Amber Heard, it would totally fit in line with that. In terms of someone being borderline, the idea of a prenuptial agreement suggests, and it's true, that the person you're marrying isn't 100% in. I mean, well, it's hard to phrase, because there's different ways of looking at it, right? On one level, when you're getting a prenup, people will say, no, I'm 100% in, but God knows how we're going to feel in 25 years. And, I just want to have things legally kind of laid out, because I don't want to have to go into a battle in 25 years. I just want to, let's just set it now, and while we still like each other. And if something gets weird, we can rely on this so we don't have to go through a big fight. And there are other reasons why people get prenups. Some people get prenups because they want to feel like their partner isn't in it for the money, they're in it for them. There's various different reasons. And I have to say that it's not really in my world. I don't see a lot of people getting prenups or talking about prenups. I'm sure it's something for extremely rich individuals. I don't know. So Johnny Depp has been talking about how he was talking about getting a prenup and that Amber Heard would refuse it. So there are a number of possibilities as to why someone would refuse. One is if you have borderline, then, like I said, the suggestion is there that an abandonment might be around the corner. Just imagining. So let me contrast between someone without borderline versus someone who would have borderline. So if you didn't have borderline and you didn't have a similar attachment reactivity pattern, then when you're presented with a prenup from your partner, there's probably going to be a little twinge of fear there and hurt of, oh, really? Like, one, in your mind, it's still possible that we're going to break up, even though we're getting married and saying we're going to be together for the rest of our life. There's a little bit of fear, a little bit of hurt there. Maybe not a little bit, but something. And also some hurt around, so you think that you have to protect your assets from me, as if you think that I might have to, that I'm motivated possibly to take everything away from you, even if we did get divorced, because that's not really how I am. So, someone without borderline would have a little bit of pain there, and maybe there'd be some anger or some hurt feelings, maybe some tears, maybe some resistance. But I don't know the typical path emotionally for people, because I don't really see it very often. But I could imagine someone navigating that pretty well. In the end, it's just like, well, so are you saying you want to get divorced? No. The person asking for their prenup would say, no, I'm 100% in. I don't see any reason why we would need this, but my lawyers are telling me I should probably have it, and I don't know. Maybe it'll help. I don't know, but I just think it would be good for both of us, just in case, that kind of thing. So they have a conversation, and then the non-borderline individual eventually signs, and they put it behind them, and they check in with the relationship. Maybe there's a little bit of a dip in trust, but then over time it's rebuilt within time. But if you have borderline, of course, you have this tremendous hurt and tremendous fear because of your relational traumas, and your feelings convince you that it's 80%, 90% sure that's what is happening right now is I am being abandoned. I'm being divorced. I'm being told that I'm a terrible person. I'm being rejected right now because of the feeling and the distortion. And so if you felt that way, you can imagine resisting quite greatly because you want to fight for the relationship, right? Okay. Then Johnny Depp says he resigned and said, well, I guess we're never going to get a prenup. And then after they got married, on the way down to Australia to film Pirates 5, I have to say, I feel like I've only seen Pirates 1. Or maybe I saw the one where they had the bad guy with the octopus thing. But I'm reading between the lines pretty heavily here. But I think what Johnny Depp is telling us is that because they're mounting conflict, he was predicting a strong possibility of divorce, if not very strong possibility, but to some degree. And he's like, well, but we have to get a post-nup now, because if we get divorced, she's going to take half of everything, and that's not fair to me. Now, that's a whole other topic that we could talk about that involves the history of our legal system, the history of misogyny and sexism and power, and we could debate that. But aside from that, it sounds like Johnny Depp was afraid to bring it up with Amber, or had tried to and it didn't go well. And then he sent one of his lawyers that approached Amber Heard without Johnny Depp telling Amber Heard that that was going to happen. That's what it sounds like. And then the lawyer comes to Amber Heard and says, so this is a post-nup. Here's an example. I think we should actually work one out for you and Johnny. And then Amber Heard comes to Johnny Depp on the way to Australia and is very upset about that, and is, according to Johnny Depp, saying that I got, this lawyer started talking about a post-nup, and I know that you would never do that to me, because that's totally not how I see how our relationship is going. So you could imagine for Amber Heard, if she has borderline and histrionic, that the post-nup was proposed. She plummets in terms of her pain, just tremendous pain and anxiety, because just imagine just a rando lawyer starts talking about it. I think most people in that situation, regardless of personality disorder or not, would interpret that as this is the beginning of the end. And if you have borderline, then that's a very, very hard thing to handle, obviously. And so you could go into complete denial, like, this isn't happening, what are you talking about? And then panic, and then anger, and then you go to Johnny like, what was that about? So I think that's what Johnny Depp is telling us.
And what Ms. Heard then expressed to me was that the lawyer, the woman, had laughed at her and said, oh, he knows. Yes, he knows everything, which sent her into a tailspin.
Right. We could imagine someone saying that to Amber, particularly if Amber was being dismissive or hostile with the lawyer. I don't know, and we could imagine that would be absolutely triggering to anyone, particularly someone with borderline.
So by the time she arrived in Australia, that was sunk very deep into her psyche. So much so that what really surprised me was that she kept saying, I'm not even in your will. I'm not even in your will.
Yeah, now, of course, a lot of people interpret this as Amber Heard is a gold digger, that she's only in it for his money, and that's what this shows. And certainly that might be true, but that's not how I'm interpreting it at this point, given all the data that we've been presented. I think it has very little to do with money. Of course, anyone likes a lot of money, but so I'm not saying that she wasn't into money or didn't consider that as a factor, but I'm guessing that it had much more to do with trauma being triggered. I mean, just imagine that a lawyer comes out of the blue and says, I'd like to talk with you. And you're like, about what? And they're like, well, it's a post-nup with your spouse. I mean, just imagine you now that, without any warning from your spouse, this rando person comes and says, oh, believe me, he knows about this post-nup. So we probably should get this, out of the way. That would be, wait, so what is going on behind my back? Like, if this is going on what else is going on behind my back? And if this is the sort of thing that's going on behind my back, my God, and to someone with borderline, oh boy, that would be one of the biggest triggers you could ever have. Not only abandonment indication, but secret conversations behind the scenes about abandonment of you and the humiliation, right? And especially if you've had traumas that were emulative of that when you were young, which can happen. Like you overhear your parents talking about how terrible you are or something. That can be extremely destructive, right?
I thought that was an odd thing to say. especially since I don't think anybody had had time to change wills or anything of that nature. So those things just didn't, it felt wrong, and she could not let go of the fact that...
And again, whoever is chewing gum into the microphone, I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I'm like, close your mouth. Because I'm pretty sure if that's someone chewing gum, because it's very irregular, and I think someone is, chew, because I can't think of anything else as to what it would be. It could be like an electrical anomaly of some sort, I don't know. And if it is, okay. But if it's someone chewing their gum, close your mouth. Chew gum, go for it. Close your mouth. There are a percentage of people who are very much triggered by hearing your mouth sounds. So it's actually, I want to, if you could give me a time machine, I wouldn't go back and kill Hitler. I would go back to this courtroom and say, I would yell, whoever is chewing gum, close your mouth and move away from the microphone.
In on this post-nup agreement, and that I was trying to trick her into essentially getting nothing if something were to happen.
And how did you respond to Ms. Heard?
So I just told her those are not my intentions, and at a certain point, you don't know what to do. I mean, the person is telling you, she's telling you, you don't trust me, you don't trust me, you don't trust me, and I can't speak about legal documents. I can't speak legalese. I can't explain to her these things. All I could do.
I'm interpreting that Johnny Depp was not being straightforward or direct to Amber, perhaps because of his personality, perhaps also because he's been an ongoing victim of abuse and is trying to stay out of trouble. But it sounds to me like she was doing what I would predict someone with borderline to do, which is being extremely triggered, like, you don't trust me, I don't understand what's happening, how come this is, what's going on in your mind, how dare you, I'm not even in your will, all these indications like, wait, you want to post-nup, I'm not in your will, you're talking to lawyers behind my back, what's happening right now? And then that's what it feels like on the inside, and then on the outside it's anger and yelling at someone. And Johnny Depp is saying that what he was saying to her was, I'm not a lawyer, I don't understand these things. And it's like, well, everyone understands the topic sentence of what that's why you asked for it. Because in the event of a split, you don't want her to take everything. That's probably why you wanted the post-nup, right? Or you could argue that he wanted a post-nup because he didn't want there to be a nasty court divorce. He wanted there to be a pre-established agreement, which can be another benefit. I mean, who knows, but he could have literally said, I want a post-nup that says you get half and I get half, so that we don't have to go through a court battle, and we'll just do that, like, who knows? I doubt that was the case. But, and then when he sent the lawyer and didn't warn Amber, it's another massively passive thing to do, right? So I'm guessing it had both to do with his passive personality, his non-confrontational, typically non-confrontational personality, and his ongoing victim status. If we believe the Amber Heard's or the Johnny Depp side, then he would be terrified of actually confronting her, which isn't, if I were his friend, I would have, prior to this plan of his, I would say, well, how do you think this is going to go? Do you think the lawyer coming out of the blue is going to work? Do you think Amber Heard's going to be like, oh, okay, fine. I mean, she's resisted the idea of a prenup before, and you guys are fighting even more now. So I don't think this is going to work. I think you have to go to couple therapy, more than 4 sessions, and maybe talk about it there. I mean, I think you need that venue to talk about anything, let alone something as sensitive as that.
Do was try to calm her down and say that I was not out to screw her over or put her in a position.
Another possibility is that it was him being passive aggressive. He was expressing hostility through hidden means. He had a lot of anger towards her, but was afraid, given his personality or given his relationship with Amber, that to directly communicate that, and instead used a very hidden method by going behind her back, talking to someone about a post-nup. They refer a lawyer. He talks to the lawyer. The lawyer goes after her, because I have a hard time believing that he thought that was going to go well. I have a hard time believing that he wasn't aware that that would bother her. So why would you do that? Well, it's possible that you wanted to be hostile, you wanted to communicate anger and displeasure, but you felt you couldn't do it directly.
Position that was uncomfortable.
Did that work?
These were stock, these were normal things to do. It did not work, no. It escalated and it turned into madness, chaos.
Can you please
Violence.
Can you please describe that chaos and violence?
Yes, she was irate. She was irate and she was possessed. And when I tried to remove myself, as I normally would from a situation, and that is to say, as she's hammering me with this sort of brutal words, and I don't, pardon my language, but I remember that it wasn't nice sort of being called an ass kisser to lawyers or a pussy.
Yeah, we've heard recordings similar to that where Amber Heard would be saying similar things, saying you're not a real man, that kind of thing. And it's an interesting tactic, right, to say to someone. He's saying in the moment that she was escalating. Sounds like he was being passive, and that probably wasn't helping. Like, he could have said something like, look, honey, I want to be with you, but our relationship is not going well, and I thought about the possibility that we might break up. I don't want to break up with you at this point, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know how things are going to go, and I thought we should probably get a prenup, and I'm sorry that I didn't tell you. I probably should have, but that's the situation. And do I think that someone with borderline would have reacted better to that? I mean, maybe a little bit, but probably not, honestly, because if you have severe borderline and you don't have insight or recovery, then there might not be any chance of not getting hostile in a situation like that, particularly given the Johnny Depp team's portrayal of her reactivity. But she was calling him out on his manhood, calling him a P word and all these kinds of things as a way of attacking him, expressing her anger, which is actually a hidden expression of her pain and anxiety. It's also potentially an ongoing tactic that she learned from her parents to control someone, beat them down emotionally and physically to get them to succumb to you, and thus you are able to retain the relationship. I think the Johnny Depp team is painting a picture that as Johnny Depp would show indications of possibly wanting to leave the relationship, that's when Amber Heard's control and abuse would increase. And it looks like this would be one of those flashpoints. So I think, interpreting what Johnny Depp is saying, he was being yelled at and he was avoiding, I think, the questions and saying, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know these things. And then it sounds like she started saying that, you're a P word, you're just bowing down to lawyers, because it's possible Johnny Depp was saying, it wasn't my doing, I don't know, I was just getting advice about a post-nup, and so I thought it'd be a good idea. I don't know, like, don't yell at me, when it's like, well, you probably were the one that initiated it, or at the very least went along with it, right? So you could imagine being the recipient of that, questioning that, but insulting someone's manhood is not the way to express that upsettedness. So yeah, this is one of those. I think this is one of those moments that is brought up frequently in this case. So let's hear more.
That didn't fight for her or stand up for her. I, again, tried to remove myself from the situation, but to no avail, as I literally, the house that they had rented for me in Australia was quite a large place. It was quite, well, I'll just cut to the chase. I think that I ended up locking myself in about at least 9 bedrooms, bathrooms that day, as she was banging on the doors and screaming obscenities and wanting to have a physical altercation.
Yeah, it sounds believable. You can make your own call as to the believability of that. and whether or not he's leaving anything out. But it's pretty excessive. It's pretty demonstrative of abuse. We could imagine that being a trigger for someone that is conceptualized the way they're conceptualizing Amber, and just the unrelenting rage and entitlement to the victim, and how all he's just trying to do is get away. And he says he's locked himself in 9 different bathrooms and hotel rooms to get away from her, and she's banging and yelling at him. So, yeah, it's hard to hear that and think that Johnny Depp is lying about these sorts of things. Might have Johnny Depp also been abusive, but I don't know. It sounds believable. But I haven't gotten to Amber Heard's testimony yet, so maybe I'll be convinced otherwise.
There was at one point where I'd stayed in one of the, sitting on a bathroom floor, door locked, she's banging away, screaming, blah, 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 and then suddenly she stopped, and I could hear her walk away. I could hear her receding into the distance, if you will, and yes, it became very emotional, because you can't win for losing. There was nothing I could do to make her understand that I had, if that lawyer had in fact done that, and I did call my lawyer at the time, Jake Bloom, and I had him get these people on the phone, and I'm ashamed to say that I had taken, at that point when I was on the phone with him, I had taken Miss Heard's words to heart, and I laid out a ration of I was very upset that she was pushed to that limit, because I believed it. In fact, none of it had happened. So it was all getting too crazy. And again, I had been sober for many, many months from alcohol and substances, aside from the marijuana.
I think some substance abuse treatment professionals would say, well, okay, if you're off opiates and you're off alcohol, which are highly destructive to your life, then that's a win. And smoking marijuana, cannabis, using cannabis is, on the whole, not nearly as destructive as those other two. So, okay, you could even potentially make an argument that he needed it for this or that, because there are medicinal qualities, of course. But other substance abuse professionals would say, that's not sober, Johnny. You're just keeping the door open to those substances. People will laugh that marijuana is a gateway drug, and that was overemphasized in the past. But regardless of what drug it is, whether it's marijuana or anything else, there's evidence to demonstrate that when you're trying to maintain sobriety, if you let a little bit of substance in and you make excuses for that substance, that allows the door of possibility to be open to other substances. Particularly if you're particularly high on something, then your executive function might be compromised, and you might actually be more likely to use in that situation. So for a lot of people, the best course of action is to be completely sober off of everything, potentially even nicotine, caffeine, maybe even really trying to reduce your psychotropic medications that might have intoxicating effects like Xanax. Of course, you'd always want to talk with your treatment team about that plan, but I was wondering when we were hearing him talk about his recovery, if he was saying that he was sober from alcohol and using opiates, or sober from opiates and using alcohol, or sober from both of those and using marijuana. And so we're just getting a little bit more detail. Yeah, I don't know what that means precisely, but that's just a little bit of detail.
And I left the place, the room that I was hiding in, or not hiding, locked myself into, and I went downstairs in the house. Downstairs in the house, as soon as you walk in the house, you can go upstairs or downstairs. Downstairs, there was a sort of a rec area, pool table and such, and there was a bar, and I was a mess. I was a wreck. I was shaking, and I just didn't understand why all this was happening. So I went behind the bar. I grabbed a bottle of vodka that was there. Right.
So if it's hard when you're going through recovery to avoid relapsing under that much pressure. But if you were in proper recovery, you would have maybe 2 or 3 sponsors that you could call 24/7. You would be going to daily meetings. You'd probably be recommended to not use marijuana because of the reasons I said earlier. And so the way that he's talking about this is extremely common. It's a very common flashpoint for relapse is when you're in a fight with your partner. And ironically, when people are going through recovery, they might have increasing fights with their partner because everything is thrown off kilter. Your pattern was for so long involved with this substance, and not only were you married to the substance, but your partner was also married to that substance. And now that that substance is out, then you are left facing each other in a sober way, and you, as a recovering addict, don't have a mature, differentiated ability to manage your emotions, and you're more likely to have erratic emotions as you go through recovery just because of physiological reasons and the frustration of not being able to use. So he's describing a very common scenario for relapse, which is, I feel bad for him, but I would feel more confident in his account and his future if he had a robust treatment plan around it. Maybe he does. I haven't heard reference to it, though.
A shot glass and sat at the bar. She was nowhere around. And I poured myself 2 or 3 stiff shots of the vodka. First taste of alcohol I'd had in a long time. And then she came down.
I don't know, but working with clients that have a relapse like this, there are various different motivations for it. Perhaps all of them are at play. One is, I can't cope with this emotion right now. It's just too much pain. I have no ability to manage my own emotions other than to use some substance, so this is my only option. Another motivation is, I know this will piss off my partner because I know how my sobriety is so important to them. So if I drink, it will be this passive aggression towards them. Another one is regressing to a previous time in one's life when there was a lot of pain and a lot of drinking. So it just feels like you're kind of back there. Another motivation is the addict mind is saying, well, you deserve it. Look how she's treating you. So, you'll just have some few shots of vodka in this moment because of how horrible what's happening right now. You deserve it. That's another possible. There are others, but those are the things that come to mind in terms of the way he's describing what happened. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.